Hello, thank you for joining me once again. This is part two of the video that I shared previously. In part one was how I found out that I have a neurodivergent situation going on, mental health, which is atypical autism, that I didn't even know that there was a category for mild autism. When I used to think of autism, I used to think your stereotypical traits, which are not mine. But it's in the same basically family. That's how I understood it, and how AI helped me to figure that out, and that all the symptoms, everything, every category, I definitely fit into it. So today, what I wanted to talk to you about in this second video is your traits, your typical atypical traits, that you're neurodivergent, which is very funny ones. I've had a fun ride in life when it comes to these certain traits. And one of the traits that is common is obviously staring, right, at people. But since, like I said, I was mild, I thought it was part of, well, when I got older, I was like, oh yeah, it's ADHD for sure. But I do remember when I was little, I clearly remember a certain incident that happened, and that kind of like my brain kind of started adapting little by little, and my brain started to say, okay, don't do that. That's not good. That's bad. So my brain started adapting to try to be normal in front of people. So one of the traits was I would stare at just pretty things. Like, I don't know, if I thought a squirrel was pretty, I would stare at it for hours and hours. And when you're autistic, you can basically like go through different kind of like dimensions, you could say, right? Different portals of time. So basically like meditation, also you could sit there for like hours and hours and you don't even realize that you were there for hours and hours. And especially when you're really interested in a certain subject or topic, or if like me, I would stare at like certain beautiful things or like art or whatever. So one time when I was little, I was 10 years old, and we went to a mall. I remember there was this beautiful African-American woman, and she had these beautiful braids with like a lot of little things, like colorful things in her hair. And I just thought it was so beautiful and interesting, right? And so I just stared at her, I guess, for a really long time, to the point where she's just like, what you looking at? And now I think it's really funny, but when I was 10 years old, I was a little scared. So I got scared. And so then I started slowly adapting, like, okay, do not stare at people for so long, like catching myself. Okay, don't stare. So I stopped doing that. And that's why another trait of autism is, I don't know about you, but with me, it's very exhausting for me to go out in public, because a lot of people actually think that I'm very sociable, and they think like, oh my God, you're just like a very sociable, outgoing butterfly. But in fact, it's exhausting for me, and it takes a lot of my mental health, a lot. Like, you have no idea. Like, when I come home, I need to recharge for days and days, because it's so like challenging. Like, I guess since I was little and I didn't know that I was atypical autistic and I had these mental health issues, I learned, like, when I would get burned, like that incident in the mall, like, that's bad. Don't do it again. So then as my brain, I guess, is like on survival mode every time. So when I go out, I'm like, I'm a normal person. I guess my brain says like, you're normal. You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't, if I go to an interview, like looking at somebody's eyes, like that was a big thing also for me, because I was like, it's so weird to look at somebody's eyes and just stare at them straight in their eyes. But that's something that's common, especially in America, in our culture. Like, look at somebody in their eyes. You're confident. Like, look at them, And but for me as a atypical autistic, it's very like weird to look at somebody's eyes. Like, I can't. Like, I feel awkward. But I learned to do it, and especially in interviews or jobs or like talking to people, because I can't look at the wall and not look at them, basically. So I adapted and I changed that. So when I would go out in public, my brain basically is always trying to act normal. And so that's exhausting. And when I come home, I'm just like beat and I want to just rest and like watch TV all day or like, or go into my rabbit hole of music or whatever, you know. So that's, yeah, it's really hard to go out is like a big thing for me. And or like, let's say if I have like like I would take my daughter to the library and I'm just smiling constantly, hello, hello, you know, trying to act normal. I'm normal, hello, I hope the moms like me. And it's so much pressure because another autistic trait, and I don't know if this happens to you, but to me is like my older son says that I'm cringe, like kind of like, okay, like if I would post something and I'd be like, hi everyone, hey guys, you know, and I'm 42 years old, so it's like, why is a 42-year-old talking like if she was a teenager? So things like that, like not a normal mom wouldn't do, you know. With my son, he's 21, right? So he's like, mom, that's cringe. Like I always get that, the cringe, you're weird. So that's why like it's even become more hard to go out in public or try to go out with and be in a social place, because I'm like, how do I act? Like everything is like, oh, she's so cringe, or like she's so weird, you know, things like that. So that's another thing that I didn't know there was a part of my autism, which I was like, why am I like that? I hate that of myself. But you know, so anyways, that's another trait. Another thing, I don't know with men, but with women, as women, flirting in you're autistic, it's horrible. Because another trait that I didn't know until recently, is that we are very honest people. So I can't help like to say the truth, like what I think. If I think that, I don't know, like, you know, let's say, what would be a good example? Like something that to me is like obvious, like, no, she's lying. You know, I would say it out loud. And then my coworker would be like, don't say that. Don't say that. You don't say that, you know? And I would get into a lot of trouble at work, because that's why I can't really hold jobs, because it's always like, but it's true. He's like this, he said that, and like, he's this way, or like, you know, like, yeah, didn't you see what he did? Like, or didn't you see what she did? Like, I don't know. I just don't, we don't have filters to like, to act like, yeah, like normal. Like, I don't know. We're just very honest. We're honest. And sometimes honesty is not good. You can't just say what you think. Because yeah, people are like, what did you just say? So that's a big one. And then flirting, when it comes to flirting, oh my God, I was so bad. I'm so bad with it when it comes to flirting. Like, a funny, time was that I had this, so it was somebody that I went to school with when I was younger. And when I had my daughter, I hadn't seen him for years, you know. So I saw him at the mall. And at that time, I lost a lot of weight. And I guess I was looking okay. And I guess he was like, oh, like, you look really nice, you know. And I just felt that, you know, okay, he's flirting with me. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So it's like, I didn't know how to say or what. But it was hilarious, because I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know. I lost a lot of weight because, you know, I've been breastfeeding like every day, and breastfeeding, huh? Who would have thought that I would have lost weight? Because I was chunky when I was younger. And I was talking to him about me breastfeeding, and that's why I looked good. So things like that, it's like, oh my God, what did you just say? And I just remember his face was like, I cannot believe that you haven't seen me for years. Like, we're talking, I saw him when we were like, what, 13 years old, and now we're like 35, and I'm talking to him about breastfeeding, and like, it's weird, you know. I don't know, like, I saw his face like saying, okay, that's very awkward of you to be talking about breastfeeding, you know. So that's another thing that I've noticed about being atypical autistic. You're just weird. You know, people consider you to be weird. We're also very spiritual. I don't know, but that's how I am. Like, I'm very connected to spirituality. And I've been going through the rabbit hole with autism, and I feel like we can tap into a lot of things that I don't know. I mean, people might think I'm crazy, or like when we talk about it, they're like, yeah, it's just your mental health, you know? But yeah, sometimes I feel like I can connect a lot to the divine. And so I've had a lot of spiritual dreams that maybe I'll share along the way. And I honestly feel like we are kind of like those cables that are kind of connected in the wrong ways, kind of also give us access to other things that I'm like, it's actually pretty cool sometimes in that area. But I do long for spirituality. So when it comes to like religion and like God and all this stuff, I'm very, very spiritual and very connected. So yeah, those are some of the traits that if you are thinking that you have mild autism and you didn't know that there was a mild autism, not with your stereotypical traits, well, then maybe you are autistic. Like I said, I'll be providing